Hello, hello. Welcome to Sprints. I'm so sorry I didn't get that link up there earlier. I just got it on there a few minutes ago. Thanks for showing up for Sprints tonight, ladies. I'm so excited for tonight. I have to pick a book to read, and I have a ton of books to choose from, so we'll go over some of those, and maybe you can help me to decide what my next read is. Let's see who we've got out there right now. We have Dina. She says, "Hello, everyone. I'm reading The Crossing Places by Ellie Griffiths." Oh, interesting. Let me know how you like that. I think I might have read a short story by her, but I don't think I've read a full book by her. And Jeanette's here. She says, "Hello, 11 pages left in The Green Dress by Liz Tolsma." Let me know, did you like that? Because that was the book that I voted for, Jeanette. And I want to know if you enjoyed it. And Grandma Susan's here. She says, "Good evening, all. Hello, and what will you be reading tonight?" And Morgan's here, and she says, "Hi, I'm reading Point of Danger by Irene Hannon." That's so cool. And Sammy is reading Redemption by Karen Kingsbury. I think I have read that one, maybe. And Jeanette says that she's loving it. Oh, that's awesome. That cover had me, and so I voted for that one because of the cover. So I'm glad you're enjoying it. Let's see what books I have to choose from. Ooh, I'll kind of go over the books that I've read most recently, if I have my journal updated. I think I'm, for the most part, do. Let's see. Okay. I read Agatha Christie's The Seven Dials mystery. So there is the Read Christie 2026 book that I can read. I'll need to look up and see what that is. And then there's the my personal Mission Marple reading challenge that I'm doing for myself, where I'm reading the Miss Marple book, and I believe that's The Mirror Cracked from Side to Side. So that would be another choice. So one of two Agatha Christie's there. I also had finished, or at the end of July, I finished Color Me Murder, and I did get in the second book. And is this the second one? Let's see. This is the Pen and Ink series. Yeah, so this is book 2, The Coloring Crook. So this is an option. And I also got in Sense and Suitability, so that's an option. So I think that's a good 4 books that I can choose from tonight. Let me look up real quick and see what the official Agatha Christie 2024 or 2026. 2024, I don't know where that came from. The Read Christie 2026 challenge. What is the book for this month? Read Christie. August is By the Pricking of My Thumbs. It's a Tommy and Tuppence. I do love with that. But when I read the Tommy and Tuppence, I like to start with the beginning, and this is kind of one of the last ones. I think it's the second to last. But yeah, so okay, guys. Tommy and Tuppence, Miss Marple, Sense and Suitability, or The Coloring Crook. Those are my 4 choices for tonight. Let me know what you think I should read. And Paige is here, and she is still reading Cheriton's Sirius and Calero. Don't know what that is. And Jamie says, "Hello." And she's reading A Wolf Among Sheep. And Lucy's here. Lucy, are you working tonight? She is reading Wing Feather, Book 3, and No Other Will Do by Karen Whittemire. And Katrie, hey Katrie, she votes for Sense and Suitability. And Lucy says she has tonight off, so she's excited to read. Very nice. Jeanette votes for Tommy and Tuppence. And Katrie is reading The Last of the Mohicans. Oh my gosh, it's been years since I've read that. And Paige also votes for Sense and Suitability. So that has 2 votes, and Tommy and Tuppence has 1 vote. Both, I think, would be really good. And I don't have a preference out of the 4 books. I think they all would be a really good read tonight. I'm so excited you all could join me. Still waiting to see what Grandma Susan's reading. And let's see, Jeanette, do you have a book picked for when you finish The Green Dress? Hey Annie, she says, hi all, I'm reading Prisoner of Azkaban. I vote for Sense and Suitability. Well, so far that's pulling ahead, so that may be what I read tonight. Um, I just got home from work not that long ago, and you guys remember I used to do my sprints at 4:30, and I pushed them back to 5 Pacific time because it was really hard for me to get home in time and get everything set up by 4:30, and it feels like now that I moved to 5 I'm still having the same issue. I'm at work longer. So it's really sad. I don't want to push sprints back anymore because then I feel like there's not enough time for people on the East Coast. And that's why I also liked doing them a little earlier, is to give people that didn't live near a chance to have some sprints. But yeah, so I don't want to go, let me move that. I don't want to go any later than 5, but I need to do something so that I'm not at work as long, especially on Thursdays. So much to do, and I hate to leave work undone. And Paige says, my book is considered the first fully intact surviving romance of the Western world, and it's Greek. Oh, wow. Amazing, Paige. And Jeanette is going to start Nightfall by Nancy Mayle. And that was the other one that you were considering, right, before you chose The Green Dress? And Katrie says, it was my dad's favorite book, and I've never read it. Reading it this month in remembrance. He passed 2 years ago this month. I'm liking it so far, but only 3 chapters in. Well, I hope you do enjoy it. I do believe that that one made me cry at some point, but it was good. I enjoyed it. It's been, gosh, probably 20 years since I've read it. But so probably due for a reread, but I love that you're reading that in honor of your dad, Katrie. And Lucy votes for Pepper Basham. Yeah, I think that's probably going to be the winner. And Paige says, so lots of Googling for me. Oh my goodness. And Allie's here. She says, hi peeps. Allie, glad to have you. What are you going to be working on tonight? And Steve is here too. Wing Feathers Buddy Read with Lucy. Nice. And did you get over that tough part, Steve? Sunny is Jill, and Jill is reading Life Flight by Lynette Eason. Is this for the Keep Me in Suspense readathon, Jill? And Jeanette says, yes, it was. I'm making my way through my August TBR. I do not have a TBR. I generally don't. But I do have books that I want to read. So the 4 that I mentioned. I also want to read, well, I need to read some love inspired suspense for the Keep Me in Suspense readathon. I think I have a couple of books, maybe 3 or 4. I don't know how, they'll fit all of the prompts. But yeah, and I did print out my printable, so I need to go through it and look. What else was there that I wanted to read this month? I'm all caught up on the Gabrielle Meyer Timeless series. I don't have To Dance with a Duke yet. I do want to read the book after Seeking Persephone. I have that. I don't remember what it's called, but I have it that way. Um, what else? Oh, I did start, and I didn't get very far into it, on audiobook A Gentleman and a Thief by Sarah M. Eden also. It's the second book in the I think it's called the Penny Dreadful series. So I would like to finish that. I think I borrowed that from the state library, so I'll need to return that probably pretty soon. I should check on that. Um, so yeah, those are some books that I want to read, but not I wouldn't say that it's my TBR, because I am such a mood reader. I am liable to pick completely different books. And Allie says, I'll start the night with Fatal Identity by Jodi Bailey, but might switch to a rom-com after a while. Well, that's pretty good. A good balance. And Naomi's here. She says, hello, everyone. Hey, Naomi. And Steve says, I'm hoping to be past it, but Lucy will be reading that part now. Ah, so she's caught up to you, or catching up to you. All right. Well, guys, we have been chatting for a little more than 10 minutes. Um, and I need to get some water or something to drink because my throat is drying up. So I'm going to go ahead and start our sprint, and I'm going to have it go for 40 minutes from quarter after. Last week I did the math all wrong, so let me see if I can get it right this time. So 30 minutes would be 45, so 40 minutes would be 55. I think that's correct. All right, so we'll set the banner and we'll be back at 55 after. I will get a drink and then I will start reading Sense and Suitability. I'm excited. Oh, also I need to find an ambiance, so give me a minute for that. I'll get one here. I may just do the one that I had last week until I get my water, and then I will look for something else for tonight. I do like it because it's like kind of a lake and a pier and stuff, but we'll pick something new because I had that every sprint in July. All right, here we go. We'll see you back at 55 after. We are back. We are back. And during that sprint, I did get some reading done. I read the prologue and almost the first chapter. I'm about a page and a half from finishing the first chapter. So the main character in this, her name is Emmeline or Emmeline, and they shorten her name to EMME. So those of you that have read it, how are you pronouncing that? Or if you've listened to an audiobook, how is that being pronounced? Because I'm bouncing between M and Emmy, and I'm not sure that Emmy is correct. So let me know what the main character's name, if you've read it, how you pronounced it. And let's see what else is going on here. I did get myself some lemonade, and I have my cat Audrey here next to me, and she needed a brushing, so I did that, and then gave the cat some treats. So hopefully they're all settled in. And Humphrey won't be walking in front of the camera here, swishing his tail. Let's see where we left off here. Jeanette says 55, so yes, good. I did the math right. And guys, I'm usually pretty good at math, but I don't know why. It's such a challenge for sprints for me to get it right. Hannah's here. She says, hello, friends. I'm reading The Rancher's Reunion by Tina Radcliffe, a love-inspired romance. Really hoping it grabs me soon because I don't care about any of the characters so far. Oh my goodness. That's a shame. And Grandma Susan is listening to When the Silence Breaks by Elizabeth Goddard. She's at 70% and going to bed to listen to her audiobook and sprints. Everyone have a blessed weekend. You too, Susan. I do hope you have a wonderful weekend. I am going to be traveling this weekend. I'm going to go see my sister and her family in Southern California. And it is like a little mini family gathering, so I get to see several of my family members. I'm really excited about it. I also get to go to the beach and to Disneyland, so that's always a good time too. And Tanya is here. She says, hey everyone, just got home a few minutes ago from True Crime Club at the library. We discussed Lizzie Borden. I will be starting Prowl by Colleen Coble tonight. How interesting, Tanya. That I'm not really a true crime reader, but there are some true crime stories that are just so well known. Lizzie Borden, definitely probably the first one that I heard of in my life. I'm sure I was a child when I heard about that. Probably with the little jumping jack rhyme. And what else? Then there's oh, I don't remember his name, but that was an England one, Crippen, and The Bride's in the Bath. So there's lots of like older true crime stories that are interesting to me. But I'm not very into like the true crime podcasts that deal with more recent crimes, I guess. But yeah, that sounds so interesting, Tanya. Andrea, welcome. She says, hi all. I'm wrapping up the last few pages of Into the Western Winds, Pioneer Boys, Traveling the Overland Trails by Mary Barmeyer O'Brien, and loving it. Awesome. And Lucy read 3 chapters in Wing Feather, and she's sleepy. Wow. Lucy, you're like the night owl of sprints, and you're sleepy? And Andrea says, I finished Into the Western Winds. Yay! So good. Oh, that's so good. And Allie read 20 pages, stopped in between action scenes. Great timing. Haha. Oh no. And Morgan read 2 chapters. Jeanette finished her book and wrote the review. That's excellent. Annie got to page 17%. Jill is at 25%. And Jamie says Emmy, and she says that she didn't read. That's totally fine. And Tanya got 3 chapters read. Katrie read 2 chapters. And Steve read 2.5 chapters in Wing Feather. And he says, we're still at some parts where there needs to be a plot twist. Interesting. So, I am enjoying this. It was a little hard to get into, and I don't blame the book at all or Pepper's writing, anything. It was just there was so much going on over here with my cats and stuff, so I was getting a little confused. But I think I've got it all sorted out now. I was really getting into a little groove there at the end, reading. Um, so yeah, I'm excited to find out what happened because the prologue kind of leaves you at a cliffhanger and then it's like 2 years later. So yeah, I'm interested to find out what happened and to continue reading this. And Katrie says, I just said Emmy also in my head. Okay, all right. I would just think, I don't know, I guess in my head, if it was Emmy, it would be with like a Y or an EY or IE. But maybe this was uh, an older way to write Emmy. But yeah, so that's what I'm saying. And as long as that, other people are saying that too, then I will just continue on. And Tanya says, I don't listen to true crime stuff normally either. My bestie loves that stuff, so I go to hang out with her and I give my opinion during the discussion. Tanya, did you ever watch the Aurora Teagarden series on Hallmark Channel? It starred Candace Cameron Bure. She played Aurora Teagarden. I did try to read the Aurora Teagarden books by Char Charmaine Harris, I think. I don't remember the author's name. But they, to me, weren't as cozy as the TV series, so I only read like 2 of them. But uh, the start of that, the first one is called, oh, was it called A Bone to Pick or Real Murders? It might have been called Real Murders. And where they pick a famous historical murder or crime and they discuss it, and one person like leads the discussion, kind of gives their theories, and then it's like open to discussion. That sounds like kind of what you're doing, which is really cool. And Paige read 1 chapter. That's awesome. And Jamie listened to the audio. You listened to the audio of this, and they said, Emmy, um, my throat has been bothering me all day. But oh, also I changed because I was hot. So I'm in shorts and a t-shirt now. It's hot in California, 102 outside, and my air conditioner can barely keep up. All right. Well, we got caught up in the comments. And Tanya says, yes, love that TV series. Me too. I bought it on DVD so that I could watch it. Um, and think, I think when I bought it on DVD, it had finished its run, so I think it has all of them. I'll have to check. I think I lent it to my cousin, so I'm gonna have to. I'll be stopping by her house on my way to my sister's, so I'll ask her if she returned it to me because I haven't seen it. But I love that series so much. And Jamie says, yes, I listen to Sense and Suitability. And Tanya says, I have the new ones without Candace for Hallmark TV series on hold at the library. Yeah, those, I've watched a couple of those where it's kind of like a prequel. It goes back to when she's still in college or like maybe just out of college. Yeah, those are fun. And I loved that they kept her mom. That's really good. We need to take this away. from my cat. And Andrea says it's hot here in Texas too, and same problem with the AC. Hang in there, Em. Thank you. Yes, I actually was talking to a coworker this morning because even though I say my AC is like barely hanging in there, it breaks down almost every other summer. And when they fix it, it works, but on 100-degree or hotter days, it doesn't seem to cool down the house any lower than like 82. But it's been a champ. It broke down in May. They fixed it, but since they fixed it this time, it has been keeping the house right around 76 to 78, which feels a lot better than the 82 in the other past summers when it's 100. So, yeah, it'll start cooling down soon, which is good. And it has been getting to the point where I feel chilly in the evening and I need to have like a little throw on me because it's that chilly, but I don't want to like turn it off because then I feel like it takes longer to cool down when it starts getting hot again. And Tanya says one lady tonight was insistent that Lizzie couldn't have done it physically. She wasn't very small and she could have had adrenaline going, like the mother who lifted a car when her child was stuck. Yeah, isn't that so interesting? Um, there's a podcast called what is it called? She Done It. I think that's what it's called. Let's see. Yeah, She Done It. Um, and it started out mostly about like the golden age of mystery and like the queens of crime, Agatha Christie, Dorothy L. Sayers, like all of those ladies and what they're writing. But every once in a while, the lady that does this podcast will pick a case and she'll kind of delve into it. And I think she did one on Lizzie Borden, but if it wasn't her, then it was Lucy Worsley, that Worsley, Lucy Worsley. She has a podcast. She's a historian. She has a podcast called Lady Killers, and so she might have had an episode on Lizzie Borden, and they talked about that whether she could have done it, whether her sister was in cahoots with her, and kind of like the outcome, what her life was like after that happened and why she wasn't convicted and really how improved her life was in spite of the fact that she had been accused of murder. And Lucy, it says, I'm eating my dairy-free gelato. That sounds really good. I might have an ice cream later. And Paige says, I'm listening to a true crime book with my mom. It's about a murder that happened here in Atlanta in 1913. It was a 13-year-old girl that was killed, and the accused killer was dragged from prison and lynched. Wow. Wow. And Andrea says, yep, the heat index will get it every time. They just don't make them like they used to. Oh, for sure, right? And I remember growing up even. I grew up in a more Southern California, and it was in the valley, it was very hot. It did not cool off at night. And until I was about 12, we only had a swamp cooler. Then the house that we moved to had actual air conditioner. But yeah, a swamp cooler. That was it. And we still had all those 112-degree days. And Jamie says, yes, our staff room air went out halfway through the day today. I told the principal the afternoon that we needed to meet in my classroom tomorrow. My air works great. Yeah, isn't that interesting? Our building at work is pretty big, and it's not the actual building is like a big square, but there's three areas that belong to different companies. in that building, and it's weird. So you walk in one door, and there's a hallway, and then there's a door to one business, and then there's the door to the other business. The third business, their door is on the outside, so you don't even walk into the hallway. And the air conditioners, because it used to be all one building, the air conditioners are throughout, but it's like you're walking through, like where I work, and one area is warm, like 76 degrees, and then another area is like 74 degrees, which is what our thermostats are supposed to be set at. And then another area is like 70 degrees. So you never know like what you're going to get. So we always have like a sweatshirt or a sweater, cardigan, something that we can put on in like layers at work. Like it should be even across the board. Paige says a lot of people think Leo Frank, the accused killer, was innocent and the trial was a setup because he was a Jew. It is still very controversial, especially here in Atlanta. I think that's Atlanta. Let me know if it's not. Paige, I grew up hearing about it. Um, wow. Yeah, it's so crazy. And that's another thing with historical crimes. Um, People being accused and not accused, and like that lady killers podcast, it's all about women that committed crimes, and it's interesting like how many were not found guilty because they were women, and how many were found guilty because they were women. So just depending on their time and their area of where um, the crime happened, and just like what like society held up as a value determined the outcome, whereas if they had been like in another part of the country or another country. So this podcast, it's like England, Australia, in the US, and pretty much all around Victorian times, but that spanned quite a bit. But yeah, it's really, really fascinating. Annie says, I grew up near where Lizzie Borden lived. I always believed she didn't do it. I don't have much of a reason, but think her father might have had enemies no one knew about. Interesting. And Tanya says, I think Lizzie may have had help to do it because her dad wasn't the nicest father and wasn't a very honest businessman. Wow. And Tanya says, so Lizzie's father probably did have a lot of enemies. And Jeanette says, the AC at my work is so cold, I always have a sweater jacket on. Yeah. And Paige says, yes, Atlanta. Okay, I thought that's what it was, but I don't, want to keep saying something that wasn't right. All right, guys. Well, we are just about at a quarter after again, so we can do another sprint until 55. Let me know, you guys, if you want to do any do you remember cards or any trivia. We'll go ahead and start the next sprint now, but we can do that when we come back. Just let me know in the comments, but I'll get our ambiance set up and in our banner. Let's go. That was Lucy. I'll see you all back at 55. Welcome back. Welcome back. I'm just updating my headline. So I got a couple of pages into chapter 3 and I am enjoying the story. It is I feel like I need to know more about the main male character, like sooner rather than later. But I am enjoying it, so we shall see what happens in the next few chapters that I read tonight. Jeanette's asking for trivia, and Tanya agrees trivia. Kelly's here. Hey, Kelly. She says, hi, everyone. I'm reading Loyally Luke in my car while I wait for my kids to finish working out at the gym. Very nice. And Allie's saying hi to Kelly. Allie read another 20 pages. That is amazing. I don't know how many pages I read. Let's see. I'm on page 34. And I started on page 15, so that's not very many pages. 19 pages? Well, maybe it is. Yeah, that's not too bad, especially because I had to get up and get some ice cream and freshen up my lemonade. So now I have one of my favorite mocktails is half ginger ale, half lemonade. So that's what I have now. And Kat's got some treats. Andrea jotted a couple of her reviews in her notebook and read 30 pages, nice, of One More River to Cross by Jane Kirkpatrick. And Morgan read one chapter. And Steve says, I'm not exactly sure what I read, but I read some more and I'm hoping to actually finish this book tonight. Amazing. Jeanette didn't read. She worked on getting Saturday's video finalized and updating her reading journal. Awesome. I also need to update my reading journal. I looked to see if Libby or Hoopla or the State Library had Sense and Suitability as an audiobook to borrow. It's on Audible, but I'm not sure that I want to use a credit on it. I should listen to a sample and decide. It's a 2-week wait on Libby, and Hoopla didn't have it, and neither did the State Library. But we'll see, because I feel like I am enjoying physically reading it, but I also think that I would like an audiobook for when sprints are over and I'm doing other things. And Tanya read a chapter, and Allie says, oh, that sounds yummy. It was actually, you guys know drumsticks with the peanuts on the chocolate and stuff. This is like a store brand, and they're like mini. So I had a box of those. I took one. I think the one that I had today was just the vanilla one, which is like a regular drumstick. Only it's like a third of the size of a regular drumstick. So it gives you that little bit of ice cream without all of the sugar and calories. And Annie got to page 29. Nice. And Bethany's here. She says, hi. Was trying to get my video up, so I didn't get to participate tonight. Heading to bed after a long day. I will see if you're still sprinting when I get settled. I think we'll be sprinting probably about another hour and a half-ish. Maybe a little longer, maybe a little shorter. And Jamie says, I sent you a tiny sample on the Pink Hat chat. I didn't notice that, Jamie, until we had like 1 minute to be back. So I haven't listened to it yet, but I will listen when we go into our next sprint. Yeah, so let's get some trivia. We had a couple of votes for that. Shall we do movies or TV, or like last time alternate one then the other? Can start with TV. Okay. So this question is, the two Olsen twins are Ashley and, do you guys want the multiple choice or do you want to just try answering? Jeanette says TV, but alternating is good. Yeah, that's what we'll do. So here's the question again. The two Olsen twins are Ashley and Jeanette's already answered Mary Kate. Andrea says Mary Kate. Allie says Mary Kate. And Steve says Mary Kate. All right, and the answer is, so the choices were A, Mary Beth, B, Katie, or C, Mary Kate. And C was the answer, Mary Kate. And I kind of feel like usually when you say the name, don't you say Mary Kate and Ashley rather than Ashley and Mary Kate? Or at least I think I do. And Paige says Mary Kate. Yeah, good job, everybody. All right. Let's do a movie one. I'm trying to find stuff that's like newer or classic because I know I'm older than a lot of you. So stuff that I would know you wouldn't necessarily, I think most people wouldn't necessarily know. Okay. What does Indiana Jones have a fear of? A, heights, B, snakes, or C, water? I'll repeat that. What does Indiana Jones have a fear of? A, heights, B, snakes, or C, water? Allie says snakes. Andrea says snakes. Steve says snakes. Tanya says snakes. Jeanette says snakes. And Paige says snakes. Y'all are so right. It is snakes. Indiana Jones movies are some of my favorites. I love them. I love those kind of action adventure movies, like Indiana Jones and like the National Treasure movies. What else? The Mummy movies. I love those that are fun, not like scary. Allie says a friend of mine calls them nope ropes. That is hilarious. My sister, one of my sisters, loves reptiles, and she at one point had two snakes, two, I want to say corn snakes, and a boa constrictor, and axolotl, and a gecko, and what else? She had like 7 different reptiles. That is not me. I would not. And Tanya says the Last Crusade one. Yes, that was such a good one. And Steve says, aren't you only 35, Em? Well, according to my nephew, I was 29 for many years, but then he said that since one of our older nephews was 30, that I couldn't be 29 anymore. So he hasn't given me an age, but I'll take 35. And Steve says the Temple of Doom scared me when I was younger. Yeah, that one is my least favorite, because of all of the bugs, and the whole like cult and all of that, like weird, like pulling the heart out and doing all of that stuff. Plus when they're eating like the monkey brains and things, it was like the grossest one to me and not my favorite. I love Raiders of the Lost Ark, but I love The Last Crusade. I do even like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. This new one that came out, I liked it, but I felt like there was there was like more CGI. It didn't feel, I don't know, it just didn't kind of have the feeling of the other ones. But yeah, I think Last Crusade is probably my favorite one. And Annie says, Steve, it still scares me. Yeah, it's when I do like, I'll do like a rewatch of different series, and Temple of Doom, sometimes I skip it. And Tanya says, my cat has caught two ground snakes this year in our garage. I keep telling her, girl, thank you for catching them, but don't bring them to me. Oh my gosh, really? Um, Here where I live, there's like a wetland preserve that goes into a nature preserve. So like right at the edge of the property, it starts and kind of like wraps around the back. So I have seen snakes here on the sidewalk a couple of times. Now I've lived here a really long time, so it's not like often, but it's like two times too many. So I am very careful when I'm out there walking, just because they were on the sidewalk, and I'm sure they came from the bushes. Excuse me, but still. And Steve says the ritual. Yes, exactly. Did you guys ever watch, oh, what was it called? It was a Sherlock Holmes, like a young Sherlock Holmes, but it was like in the like early 90s or late 80s. Let me see what it was called. I really like that, but there also was kind of like that, like hypnosis kind of ritual aspect to it that was not my favorite. Um, Let me see if this is the right one. Yeah, it was called Young Sherlock Holmes, and I guess it was in 1985. Um, but yeah, I do like that movie a lot, but it did like creep me out because there again was like the cult and ritual stuff happening in it, which is not my favorite. All right, let's get another TV trivia. Okay, we'll try this one, but again, like this stuff is familiar to me, but it might not be as familiar to y'all. What product is ouchless? A. Band-Aid bandages, B. Bactine, or C. Curad bandages? I don't think I would have gotten this one. Tanya says Curad. Paige says Bactine. Steve says C. And Allie's questioning Curad. Yeah, I don't know if that's even still a brand. And Andrea says, I want to say Curad, been ages since I heard that ouchless thing, right? So the answer to that was C, Curad. Good job, guys. Allie, I was going to say no more tangles, but that's tearless. Yes. Yes. Okay, guys, look at my hair. You see that this is like my natural frizziness. And when I have it down, I always get tangles right here at the back of my neck, just from the day. So, like, not even messing with it or anything. And when I was little, my mom would brush out my hair, and she would always tell me that I wasn't brushing my hair, and that's why I had tangles. And I would like pray. I would see the commercials for the No More Tangles, and it's like, I just wanted that in my life because I didn't want, when my mom was brushing my hair, for her to get to that tangled mess back there. And Kelly says, I thought the same thing, Allie. And Allie says, twinsies. And Paige says, tearless never worked. Well, that's sad. I do have now like a leave-in conditioner that I use that it's really great when I'm combing through my hair after a shower, to put that in before I comb through. It really helps comb through without getting all the tangles. But yeah, it wasn't that I wasn't brushing my hair. It's just that my mom has straight hair and I don't. And so she didn't understand that it just tangles. All right, let's do a movie trivia. Wait, this one's TV. Okay, I don't know if you guys know this. This is more of like a classic series of movies. What was Basil Rathbone's famous role? A. Dracula, B. Sherlock Holmes, or C. The Thin Man? And Tanya says, we never got those fancy Curad Band-Aids. We got the cheapo ones. We had Band-Aid Band-Aids. I think that's what we had at home. And Andrea says, curly girl hair is hard to understand if they don't have it, for sure. And Kelly says, Sherlock Holmes. So again, what was Basil Rathbone's famous role? A. Dracula, B. Sherlock Holmes, or C. The Thin Man? And we've got Sherlock, B, Sherlock, and the answer to that is B, Sherlock Holmes. Good job, guys. You guys are doing good. I underestimate you, so I won't anymore. Let's see. Okay. In A Charlie Brown Christmas, what did Sally want Santa to bring her for Christmas? A, a dollhouse, B, tens and twenties, or C, naturally curly hair? So this is Sally in A Charlie Brown Christmas. That's so funny that we were talking about curly hair and that's one of the choices. Kelly says, I only guessed that because of the great mouse detective. The Sherlock's character's name was Basil. How funny. I did watch the Basil Rathbone Sherlock Holmes movies because they were always like on Turner Classic Movies or American Movie Classics when it showed classic movies. And I thought that he was really good. Annie's guessing total curly hair. And Tanya says a total guess. Did I miss your total guess, Tanya? And Allie says tens and twenties. And Paige says, I didn't get my hair cut till I was in second grade, so I had long, really thick hair, like past my butt long. I cried every hair wash brushing. Wow, that is very long. I think I probably told you guys before, because of that tangling, my mom would always take me to get a pixie cut. So I had long bands and like short hair, like all the time. And Steve says, C, naturally curly hair. And Andrea says, I don't remember, guessing the money. Got the mummy on my mind. And Paige says, I can't remember what Lucy wanted. Well, this one is Sally. And let's see, Allie says, Kelly, I'll never make that connection. I never made that connection with that movie. Tanya's guess is A. So that was a dollhouse. And the answer is, oh, I lost my place. The answer is B, tens and twenties. She wanted the money. And Paige says, oops. Yeah. All right. Guys, we're at 7:15. Do we want to do some more trivia or do we want to go into another sprint? How are we doing out there? Okay, I'm going to give you guys one more question and then we'll just go into another sprint. So put your answers in the comments. Steve says sprint. And Andrea says I can do one more sprint before dinner. Either one is good. And Bethany is back. All right, so we're going to do one more question and then we'll go into another sprint. So this is another old movie from 1967. Who played Guinevere in Camelot? A. Vanessa Redgrave, B. Celeste Holm, or C. Anne Margaret. So put your answers in the chat and then we'll reveal the answer when we come back from the sprint. And again, we'll go till 55. And I will type the question in the chat too, and as soon as I get us set up for our sprint. Okay, friends, we are back. And we'll see how everyone... Whoop, Humphrey got scared himself. We'll see how everyone did on that last trivia question, and that was who played Guinevere in Camelot, the 1967 musical. And Kelly says, no idea. And Pamela says Vanessa Redgrave. And Annie also says Vanessa Redgrave. And Tanya says A. And Steve says B. Paige, so cute, says I wasn't born. Jeanette says Anne Margaret, and it's a guess. And Bethany says the only one I know is Celeste Holm. And Allie says don't know this one. And then there's the question for anybody that missed it. Who played Guinevere in Camelot? A. Vanessa Redgrave, B. Celeste Holm, or C. Anne Margaret. And then Andrea says, I haven't seen that movie, but it sounds like one Vanessa Redgrave would have done. And Andrea read 14 pages. Awesome. Katrina got to 60% in Across the Ages. Nice. I've been thinking about that book. I was talking to one of my coworkers about it the other day. I thought it was really cool that the main character was a guy. So yeah, to mix it up a little for that. Okay, so the answer to that trivia question is Vanessa Redgrave, and that was A. She was the one that starred in Camelot. All right, so let's see. As far as reading, I have just finished chapter 3. That's page 50. And I think I was on 35 before. It's about 15 pages that I read. And Humphrey wanted some treats, so I got up to do that. And had my dinner. I had a chicken salad sandwich that was pretty good. I had some cherries that I was going to eat as a side, but the sandwich itself was pretty filling, and considering that I had already had an ice cream, I think that's probably it for me and food tonight. Allie read yet another 20 pages. Awesome. And Jill got to 30%. Allie says 90%. Isn't it? Like, doesn't that drive you to like finish when you see that 90 or 92% or whatever? It's like, I am almost there. Jamie edited a short and is about to have to go to bed. Well, good night, Jamie. You have a great evening. And Andrea says, thanks for hosting them. See everyone later. Bye, Andrea. Thanks for joining us tonight. And Jeanette read 20 pages in Nightfall. Annie got to page 47. And Allie says, it does. I'll probably stay up to finish it. Yes. It's 8 o'clock. Do you guys want to do some trivia? Do you want to start another sprint? If we start now, we can go to 40 after. And then wrap up tonight's sprints. Let me know. Otherwise, we can do a couple of trivia questions and then call it a night. Tanya got a couple of chapters in Prowl. Nice. Nice. Okay, I'm going to ask a trivia question. I think last time we did movie, so we'll do TV. Okay, I don't know how many of these actors you guys will all know, but here's the question. Where were the following TV actors born? William Shatner, Raymond Burr, Howie Mandel, Rich Little, and Leslie Nielsen. A, England, B, Canada, or C, Mexico. Annie says another sprint. Allie says a sprint would be nice. We are catching bad guys right now. Yay. And Jeanette says, I should head to bed soon, so I couldn't stay for a full sprint. And Jeanette says, Canada. And Steve says, I'm so close to being done with the third book. Annie says, Canada. Katrina says, Canada. Allie says, Canada. And Tanya says, B. And B was Canada. Right? Am I looking at the right card? Yes. B is Canada. And Steve says, and Canada. And Paige, has anyone read any ancient Greek books? And if so, are they all ridiculously dramatic? Ancient Greek, I mean like Homer. I had a European lit class. No, it wasn't that. That was Dostoevsky and Kafka. I had a humanities English class, and we read some Greek in translation, but not in like actual ancient Greek. And Paige says Canada. Allie says, Paige, I haven't, but I'd also like to know the answer to this. The answer to this trivia question is Canada, B. So, yes, all those people. I think I'm probably surprised about all of them except William Shatner. I knew that he was from Canada. Um, yeah. All right. So, shall we do another sprint? And Jeanette, if anybody else that needs to go, have a great evening. Otherwise, anybody else that's sticking around, we'll set a banner for 40 after, just shy of 40 minutes, and then we'll wrap up tonight's sprints. Okay, friends, we are back from that final sprint, and I had to stop reading a couple of minutes early because my cat was all over me. But I did get almost to the end of chapter 5. I'm a couple pages shy of getting to chapter 6. I'm really enjoying the story. I have found out more about the main male character, so that kind of rounds him out for me. So I really am liking this book. Allie finished her book. Yay! And Tanya says, "Yay, Allie, way to go. Absolutely, so good. That 90% pulled you in and got you through." Um, all right, well, thank you all for joining me tonight for sprints. We'll be sprinting again next week on Thursday. It is the second Thursday of the month, and I'm going to be starting doing crafty sprints on the second Thursday of each month. So I think my friend will be co hosting with me next week, and we'll be working on listening to audiobooks more than likely, and then working on some crafty projects. I'm not sure what I'll be working on, but it will be something fun for sure. Tanya says, "Thank you for the sprints, and good night, everyone." Good night, Tanya. I hope you have a really great evening, everyone, as well. I'm going to get my cat some treats and get ready for bed. It's not bedtime yet, but I want to get cozy, and then I'm going to read in my book some more. And yeah, so I will have a pretty good night, and I hope you all do too. Paige says, "Night, thanks for the sprints. You are quite welcome." And Steve is 5 chapters from finishing the book. Well, good luck, Steve. I know you wanted to finish that tonight. I know it's a little later over there where you are. I'm not sure how late you're staying up. I'll probably only be up for about another hour and a half or so. And Paige says, "That sounds fun. I could work on the blanket I've been working on." Oh, for sure. I got these cross stitch bookmarks from Amazon, and I started one. I meant to work on it today at work during my break and my lunch, but I left my project bag here, so I didn't get to work on them. I might do that tonight. I'm not sure. I'm going to finish definitely chapter 5 in this, and then I might switch to an audio book so I can work on those bookmarks for a little bit. But first, I need to put on some more comfy clothes and get myself ready for bed. And he got to page 63, awesome, and says, "Thanks for the sprints, good night all, good night." And Steve says, "This series has made me cry a bit." Um, I don't re- I read the first book in that series, Steve. The what is it called? The Darkness at the Edge of the Darkest Sea. Is that what it's called? But it's book 1 in the Wing Feather saga. I don't remember if it made me cry or not. I know that the situation that the main family was in was pretty dire, but I don't remember that I cried in that. Um, I'll get to the rest of the series eventually. I just always have. I'm sure all of you out there always have so many books that you want to read. But I'm not doing too bad. 112 so far this year. Some of them are rereads because I do love to reread. I do love my Agatha Christie's. I've read them all multiple times. Um, and yeah, and I will keep choosing to reread my favorite books. I know some people don't like to reread because they want their reading time for new books all the time. But I think I'm doing a pretty good job this year of reading books that are new to me. And I love books are like friends. I love rereading and diving back into the stories that I love, that I know, even if I've read them multiple times. Kelly says, I read 2 chapters of Dakin's Air with the kids. We're so close to finishing it before my daughter moves out in about 2 weeks. I think that's awesome, Kelly, that you do that. That's so special and something that your kids will remember when they're grown. Um, yeah, that's awesome. So I do hope you meet that goal. It would be amazing. And again, everyone, thank you for joining me. I'm going to go ahead and end the sprints now. I hope you all have an awesome evening, and hopefully, I will see you next week. Bye.